And so we saw a lot of your responses. A lot of people had a lot to say in regards to the video we made about the banning of Trump on social media platforms.
And TikTok.
And TikTok, that's right. And I thought it'd be a good idea for us to kind of go through some of the responses and just have a good conversation. People said to me, well, Abba, your solution's terrible. Getting the government involved sounds like a terrible idea.
The government is involved.
The government's involved in every facet of your life. You live in a building, thank God there's building regulations. Because you know what? If they were building your house without any regulations, you know what they would do? They would cut corners. Right? People think people have this really potato capitalistic libertarian view where it's like the free market will handle. No, people will cheat you. If there was no regulations, the food that you would receive would have issues. Yo, listen, if contract workers, people who worked in construction could cut corners, bro, do you know how many accidents we would have? Like in Sri Lanka when those buildings come down on all those kids at schools? Like, yes, they would.
You mean to tell me that there's some people that would cut corners for money? Impossible.
And when you guys talk about like, why don't you make your own platform? I don't think you guys really understand how monopolies work. You can't just beat a monopoly. When they own the market, they don't allow you to come up. They buy you out. They work with lobbying groups to make sure that your type of application does not see the light of day. Like Apple, for example, owns 70% of the podcast market. If they start filtering things out, a lot of podcasts are just going to fall off the face of the earth. You cannot just defeat monopolies. It's not this thing where if you come up with a genius idea, you're going to take over. No. And that's why there's antitrust laws that exist. They exist because it protects you, the consumer. If Verizon is working with every other telecom company, right? And they say we're all going to raise our price at the same time. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can't do nothing. They're all going to make a profit because you have to go to them. We have that problem here in Canada. You can't fly domestically with any American airline, European. The only people that can fly in Canada are Canadian Airlines. There's 2 of them.
3.
2.5.
2.5.
Okay.
WestJet, Air Canada. Well, Air Canada is the big one. WestJet, Porter.
Now, here's a fun fact. Air Canada and WestJet's prices pretty much exactly the same. They price up and they mark up the price all the time. What means people never travel within the country because it's too expensive. It's cheaper for me to fly to Europe than it is for me to fly my own country. Why? Because they have a monopoly.
For the same amount of time. Like it takes about 6 hours to go to France. It takes about 6 hours to go to BC. It's cheaper for me to go to France. It costs me less to go to Italy when it's further down than to go to BC.
And these things are government protected, where they've lobbied enough in order to save themselves. So monopolies are a huge problem. They actually shaft everybody. So when you guys sit there, it bothers me so much when you guys sit there and you guys are caping for corporations as if they're not shafting everyone. I'm like, you guys are basically rooting for the enemy. Mm-hmm. You don't even realize it. Mm-hmm. Like these guys don't lean left or right. They lean what's politically and financially good for them.
Money. That's where they lean.
Period. So when I say regulation, I don't mean that we take over, but it would be good, the same way we work in the financial sector, maybe creating committees that explain why people are banned when it comes to like high profile figures and they demonstrate it, right? Or committees that are holding them accountable, making sure that they're doing these bans evenly across the political spectrum and not just leaning one way. One thing that a lot of people said was it wasn't arbitrary. There was a very specific reason. And the reason why I use the word arbitrary is not because I don't understand why it was banned. In fact, I agree with it. The issue I had was that they chose it at an arbitrary time. If you're saying he violated TOS, therefore he deserves to be banned, I agree. But let's also not pretend like he hasn't violated 25, 30 times before. This is what I mean when I say it's arbitrary. If you have a set of rules and guidelines, yet you never enforce it, but all of a sudden you do enforce it, then of course I'm going to say it's arbitrary because you've allowed this stuff to happen and perpetually happen over a course of 4 long years.
And it's a great example because for that person, just for that person,
Mm-hmm.
there's many instances. So you can't say like it was another person. But for other people, it was not applied. For other people that were egregious, for other people that have been transgressing those guidelines and they haven't been going with those guidelines, that it's not done. It's not applied.
No.
It's like sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Like at some point, I really thought that Twitter was just a free-for-all because it was not it was never applied. I read the guidelines. I know what's acceptable, what's not. And then for some people, he decided to apply it. For some other people, not. And for the same person, at some time that they do it, you don't apply it, and then at some you realize, oh yeah, we should apply it. It's weird.
Yeah, and if you actually look at the tweets, I decided to go look at what they banned him for. Like I wanted to read. I'm going to read for you guys the exact tweets that the official blog post said they banned him for. These are the tweets, okay? We, the 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again, will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. That's the first tweet. And the second tweet that they claimed was bannable. To all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. So, based off of the context, based off his media appearance, what Twitter was saying was these two tweets, in conjunction with everything he's done off the platform as well as on, we've decided that he is a threat. Now, what I will concede is this. I felt like he was dog whistling, and he did encourage and partially incite that. That being said, what he did on the actual platform, based off of the tweets that they're banning him for, is not a thing. So for everyone saying, oh, it's just about this. No, it's about the amalgamation of all the things that he's done up until this point, plus this. This was the tipping point, if you will, right?
This was the tipping point?
Now, here's my problem. My problem is not that they banned him. My problem is that they banned him for something that happened on Twitter, and then he was banned from every other platform, be it Spotify, be it Twitch, which he wasn't even using. Every platform banned him. Now, why does this matter? This matters because let's say you say something in a TV news network, okay? You say, I don't think it's a good idea for men to compete against women in sports. If you were born a male, I don't think... Well, if in their terms of service, they feel like that is speech that is unacceptable and you've said it off platform, now they have the right to ban you. What people also have to realize is like these kind of ideas that we're now accepting because, listen, I lean left. So, of course, a lot of what he says does not agree with me. I get that. But it's not because you're winning today that you're not going to be losing tomorrow. At the end of the day, corporations and these people, they only care about themselves. So just because you see your views reflected now, trust me, at some point they won't be. And then you're going to be like, how did we get here? It's because we're allowing all this stuff to happen slowly and we're accepting it. Not only we're accepting it, we're encouraging it.
Step by step.
So, tell me how it makes sense that the Taliban's got an official Twitter. The Taliban's got.
I know.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And the problem with all this is, I see a lot of people, like especially minority communities, who are like, man, go. But yo, listen, these kind of laws and policies are applied against you guys all the time. Take Palestinians who are fighting for their agency within the West Bank. They can barely get on Twitter in a lot of situations to say what they think. Yep. So the downtrodden can't. Right? Like, let's say if people have banned in France. Why? Because they said, man, listen, the Jewish influence in this country is more worse. Anti-Semitism banned. Yep. That's real.
Just the fact that
and then you have the Ayatollah who's saying death to Israel, and he's allowed on Twitter. Make it make sense for me. Does that not sound like a call to action, considering what's happening in Israel on a regular basis with people attacking? I don't know.
It's the inconsistency for me.
It's just these rules don't make sense. These platforms have too much influence. People are like, oh, it's social media. We used to exist. Yeah, but how we used to live, it doesn't matter to how we live today. Before cars, we had horses. We're not going back. This is not going to turn into Brokeback Mountain. It's over. What?
Nothing.
Yeah. So when people say that, I'm like, do you realize that Facebook has 2.5 billion users? Do you know what the population of the world is? Isn't it like 6 billion?
7.
Do you understand? That's one platform. 2.5 billion users. In fact, nowadays, more Americans get their news from social media than they get it from anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So when you sit there and you're like, it's not that big of a deal, it's a huge deal. Most people under 35 don't even own a television.
A what?
A television.
Never heard of it. I got a screen.
You know what I'm saying? It just blows my mind. People are like, it's not that big. It's a huge deal. But I feel like people are too happy about just banning this dude and not enough about thinking about what's the implications of that and why we're not talking about how we became so divided. One man cannot divide everybody. There has to be some seeds in your heart where you feel like you don't identify with your neighbor.
People are really just happy with the end result and not how it happened.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Yeah.
They really,
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, it's like if you got pain from an infection, you just take painkillers, but you haven't taken any antibiotics. So that's pretty much all I got for today's video. Tell us what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys agree or disagree? We want to hear your thoughts on to why. But man, stop cheering on these corporations because they're not looking out for you, and you're gonna look stupid in a couple years.
All I want to say is that they don't really care about. They don't really care about you.
That's cringe, dude, bro.
It's super cringe.
Oh my god, I'm so happy these corporations like
They don't give a shit. They care about your money though. It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Yo quiero mi morena, tan rico que se ve mi morena. Mira cómo mueve, fascina mi morena. Mira cómo goza, fascina mi morena. Mira cómo toma, mi morena. Tan rico que se ve mi morena. Mira cómo mueve.